So we're going to be going through a video here that my friend Ian sent me. This is a video by Hank Green. So let's go through here and see what he has to say. I'll just be giving my opinions as we go.
What are you afraid of? Spiders, public speaking, the dentist, calculus? What about death? How?
Yeah, I'm very afraid of death. That's my biggest fear in life. I think death is the worst thing that could ever happen to anybody.
How you feel about death has probably been shaped by your beliefs about whether or not there's an afterlife, and if there is, what it's like. The ancient Egyptians believed that at death your heart would be weighed against a feather to determine if it was fit to enter the underworld. A heart heavy with misdeeds would be fed to a demon. Christians may envision St. Peter waiting at the pearly gates to welcome you into heaven unless your name doesn't make his list. Imagine not only being turned away from the coolest club in town, but banished to the eternal torments of hell. As we learned in our discussions about the philosophy of religion, when the stakes are eternal, it's only reasonable to get a little nervous about what's basically the ultimate final exam.
Okay, so the afterlife. Don't believe in it. Don't believe in any afterlife. I'm an atheist, and that's why I'm so afraid of death. I think when you die, it's over. That's it. There's nothing else. No pearly gates. Nothing. That's the horror of death.
But if it makes you feel any better, many philosophers have believed and still believe that death is nothing to fear.
Why should that make me feel better? Why should it make me feel better that some philosophers in history, I don't care if all the philosophers think that death is nothing to fear. It doesn't make it true. Death is certainly something to fear, and I know people throughout the ages have come up with various coping mechanisms. They want to come up with a philosophy that makes death not seem like a bad thing because they think they're going to die and they're preparing for death. So, of course, they're going to want to pretend like death is okay, but that doesn't make it true. Death is something we should all be afraid of. It's the worst thing that could ever happen.
In 399 BCE, Socrates was sentenced to death for, among other things, refusing to acknowledge the official deities of Athens, radicalizing youth, and generally honking off the people in charge. But
he doesn't sound like a very smart person. He should have went along to get along. You know, he should not have done something that... This is why you should fear the government. Okay, this is why the government is something to fear. You should be a law-abiding citizen. Obey the rules of your government, because your government has the power to kill you or to put you in prison where you're likely going to die anyways. So, yeah, Socrates, not very smart.
Even when he faced his own imminent death, he remained calm and unafraid. He was a philosopher after all, and fear was no match for his ability to argue.
You know, maybe Socrates' lack of fear, that's what gets you killed. This is just to demonstrate, this is a further proof that it's the lack of fear that is very, it's going to get people killed. When you have that fear driving you in your back in your mind, that fear is going to ensure that you make better decisions. Survival. Decisions with survival in mind. Socrates obviously was lacking in that department.
Socrates didn't think we could know if there's an afterlife or not, but he thought there were really only two possibilities.
Okay, so he's right about not knowing. I'm an agnostic, so obviously I don't think we can know for sure anything. I'm an agnostic atheist, so that means I don't know if there's an afterlife or not, but I don't believe in an afterlife. I don't know if there's a God or not, but I don't believe in God. That's the distinction there.
And if this food comes as a gift from some divine intelligence, we understand that an intelligent being cannot blame us for questioning its existence. Nobody knows, nobody can know if any deity is watching over us. Amen.
And as far as he was concerned, neither of them was anything to be afraid of. Here's his argument. Either death is a dreamless sleep, or death is a passage to another life. Dreamless sleeps are nice, not scary. Socrates said he could use the rest. And a passage to another life sounds good too, because he'll get to hang out with cool people from the past.
Okay, possibility number one, he's kind of leaving out that it's not just a dreamless sleep. It's a eternal sleep. It's very likely the end of your existence forever. So when you phrase it that way, it is very scary. this is not like a sleep you can come back from. This is, you can never come back. It's, hello, people trying to romanticize it, trying to sugarcoat it. It doesn't change the facts, okay? This is something horrible. This is something we all want to avoid. Death, this is the end of you. This is forever. People, don't listen to these stupid philosophers.
Past who have already died. Therefore, either way, death is nothing to fear. Socrates' idea of the afterlife was Hades, which he seems to have pictured as being a lot like Athens, except that no one had any physical bodies, only disembodied minds.
Okay, so people think all kinds of things about the afterlife. So what? This shouldn't, just because somebody thinks something, okay, it doesn't make it true. So stop focusing so much on what people believe about the afterlife or what people believe about that. What's important is what we don't know. It's important that because we don't know there's an afterlife, that's the reason to fear death, is just because we don't know. There's this very likelihood that we're going to cease to exist forever. That's what makes death so scary. And anyone's hypothesis about the afterlife shouldn't change that.
He thought that sounded awesome because bodies can be a real pain. They just need to be fed and required rest. There's so much upkeep. So in the afterlife, Socrates imagined he'd get to have endless philosophical conversations and continue learning new things with the greatest thinkers of the past, and they wouldn't have to take a break to eat or sleep or pee. Now, Socrates recognized that although his favorite activity, philosophizing, didn't require a body, some things do, and if all of your favorite pastimes are physical, you might find the afterlife disappointing. That's why Socrates recommended spending your life looking after your mind, cultivating that part of you that you'll get to keep forever.
Okay, well, I'll tell you why it's important to cultivate your mind. You cultivate your mind so that you're going to be a better strategist when it comes to living forever. The more you can cultivate your mind, the more information you know, the more smarter you can become. All of that's going to help you live forever. That's the reason to cultivate your mind.
If there's an afterlife. If you do that, when the time comes for you to die, you'll actually see death as a benefit because you won't be troubled by bodily things while your mind will be in top form.
Okay, that's very, very stupid because this is all on the presumption that there actually is an afterlife. So death is not a benefit if there is no afterlife. Yes, if there was an afterlife, death might be a benefit. If the afterlife, whatever, there's some party and it's much better than this world. But you don't know that that's true. Therefore, you shouldn't expect that it's true, and you should try to live forever physically in this world. How is that so hard to understand?
But what if there isn't an afterlife? What about that dreamless sleep that Socrates spoke about?
Exactly. This is where the rubber hits the road. If there is no afterlife, you're screwed if you die. So, it's like, don't count your chickens before they hatch. This life is what we should be focusing on. How to live forever here, not to count on some hypothetical afterlife that probably does not exist.
Isn't total annihilation of the self like the scariest thing there is?
Yes, total annihilation of the self is the worst thing that could ever happen.
Ancient Stoic philosopher Epicurus didn't think so. He lived about 100 years after Socrates and rejected belief in an afterlife altogether. Instead, he said, we are just our bodies and nothing more.
Okay, Epicurus is a retarded philosopher. Just read this quote right here. When we are, death is not come. And when death is come, we are not. Okay, so what? This is a stupid quote. I hate this quote. I hate Epicurus. He was all about not fearing death. He was like, death is nothing to worry about because when you're dead, you won't know you're dead. I don't care if I die and if I don't know I'm dead. That so what? I'm still dead. It's still a problem because I don't get to exist and have fun. The problem with death is the absence of living. Life is so amazing that death is a problem because death will stop you from living and having fun forever. This is not rocket science. So all these philosophers, Epicurus, Socrates, they're just trying to make excuses and try to rationalize death when really death is not. You cannot rationalize death. If you're rationalizing death, you're deluded, like these philosophers were.